Okay, now let's try to move forward. Now I will try to not only stream but also record Lection. I don't know why this did not work the first part. So for now, is this my voice the same as on the first part, and image is normal or blurry? Because I'm afraid this is the biggest problem with streaming and recording at the same time. Oh, okay. If it's good, now let's continue. So basically, that's how we can use arrays to store data. So data structures based on arrays are really hardly used in Java. So let's say this is the most common way to process data. So if we have some data that we do not know how much records do we have to work with, or just a lot of data, so usually we use arrays in such cases. So we never use a lot of variables to process some sequential data, like I have used example with this charts with gold and something like that. So now let's try. So here's the way how to declare array. So first type is just simple declaration with fixed length and initial values. Second is declaration with without direct length declaration, but with fixed initial values. So when we use fixed initial values, this array length is calculated by Java. One more. So when we, how can we know length of array if we haven't declared this? So imagine situation when we are getting array just as a function parameter. So have you mentioned these string args? So this is a function parameter. So here we got array of arguments that was created in another place, but here we can work with it. So we do not know who and how created this array, but we can know its length. So length is always of type length of array is always of type int, no matter of type of object stored in array. Array length is always of type integer. So r dot length. So this is way how to get size of our array. Let's print this. So this is very important property of each array, because when we just for example, when we need to process file with some rows of data, we don't know how much rows are inside this file, but we can store all them inside array, and after that, for each element of this array, we can process data. So how much times we need to work with array elements, so here it is r length. So each array has its property called length. So let's print this. And yes, we will get value of 6 for this array. So here we have redeclared this. It was of length 10 at the first attempt. And here when we have redeclared array, we have here length 6. Because here we put 6 different elements. Now let's try array of some different types. The first one is okay. Let's remember all primitives that we got. So we had numerical primitives like byte, short, int, long. So technically we can create a new array of bytes. So we have here we can create an array of bytes. The same way we can create array of shorts. So you see, I cannot create a new array without specifying length or specifying values. So I should do one of these two actions. So it is not lexically correct to create array without length like this or values. So here's quite in quite obvious way we can create array of long. So every other arrays will look absolutely the same, but array of strings will look little bit. But let's try to create array of strings. This may look quite interesting. So type will be string. Let's call it strs new string, and let's give some initial values. So this we can give no values here, and this will be just empty array. So it will exist, but will not hold any element. So syntactically, that's that's possible, but is quite useless. So here I'll put extra comment, just empty array, zero sized array. Let's give some values to this array. So hello and world. So please write down these 3 examples of arrays of different types than integers. Well, great. So this is how looks array of strings in a Java. So technically that looks same like array of integers that we have already declared, but here values are just texts taken with this double quotes and divided by comma, exactly like here. We can also create an array of chars. So, and also, well, technically, string as a text, it's array of chars. So, hello, that's array of chars of H, E, L, L, O, and so on, and also. Let's create, just for interest, let's create array of chars. So you should be very accurate here because each letter, each char, it's only one, uh, letter inside a single quotes, not a double quotes, but a single quotes. So please uh, write also this last example of array of chars. We will use it next. So now let's perform one small practical assignment, just for 3-4 minutes. So I want to get on a screen. Okay, just hello Java. Uh, oh, here. I have just changed it to this array strs with one more element. So please do the same. Uh, so what I want to get this hello Java and this negation sign on a screen. So actually I want to print this element of array. Next I want to be printed all these 4 elements of this char array, and after that this last element of strs array. Is this assignment clear now? So just take first and last, just print first and last element of first array strs, and between print all elements of second array. So let's try. So small assignment just for 5 minutes. Okay, let's let me show how I would do this. So okay, so the main thing that we need to take care about, this is first element in array. So counting inside array starts from 0. So if we want to print this first element from here, we need to use index 0. Okay, let's print strs 0. So this will be first hello world. World. Next, we need to take all these elements from second array. Okay, let's take zeroth element, first, second, third. 1, 2, 3. So here the last element is of index, has index 3, not 4, because we start counting from 0. And the last one, this sign, so it will have index 2. So hello has index 0, world has index 1, and this has index 2. By the way, we need to print space between this hello and Java. So, okay, let's just print space in between. So now I'll run and, well, suddenly get this hello Java. So, did you got something looking same here? Uh, of course I could, but you mean just to print array like this? So yes, I could. So technically that's correct, but let's try to do it. So now I'll put extra new line, or even two extra new lines, and let's try to print array like this. So technically that's possible, but hmm, well, really interesting. Let's try. Do you remember we have R here, array of integer. If I try to print array of integers, well, yes, that's a very good point. I even just a little bit forget about this. So after this printing hello Java, please create an extra new line and then print this char array and this integer array that we had earlier. And let's look on the results. So here I'll so please rewrite, and after I'll explain what is happening here. Well, okay. When we try to print array of chars, we got actually its value. When we try to print array of integers, we got something, well, I don't know how to call it in English or Latvian. In Russian, I would call it something like кракозябла, because that's just a sequence of some not really uh, meaningful symbols. So what's happening here? Actually, in Java, array is an object. Object is stored in memory, but it holds only some reference inside memory on so variables that created for array ju actually just holds reference to some point in memory where data is located. So, but not that's not about primitives. So when we have integer, absolutely simple integer like this one. So here we have value, and when we try to print variable, we get value. When we are trying to print object or array, we will get something like this. So this is like an address of this variable inside memory. So it's hashed in special way that we could not get this real value. So this is that for security reasons. But well, I don't know in which Java. Uh, so yes, so looks like you have got uh, this value also just a hashed address in memory. So when in Java, when you try to print object without just like it is without special without special overrides, you will get something like this. So just a reference in a memory in securely hashed way. So you cannot print array like this. You can print simple elements of this. Why this works for char array? Well, I think that's some feature of latest Javas because I didn't saw this before. So I'm working from Java 1.4, so more than 20 let's years ago Java. But actually, I wanted to show that please never try to print array just like this by its reference. So you see, in my example, this worked, so it just has printed Java. But if I put this inside another print line, something like this, maybe let's try. Ah, yes, so I got the same. So, but when I try to concatenate this value, I've got this secured hash. So, what I wanted to tell about all that, so please never try to print array just by its reference. This would not work. You will get this meaningless sequence of signs. Why this worked when we tried to print char array? So it was just a luck. I don't know which Java feature this was, but that actually should not work. Uh, looks like this is just some, I don't know, in kind of security breach, because char arrays are really used to securely store data instead of strings. So uh, these six, I don't know, 7 lines of code used for printing first word from string array, every char of char array, and last negation sign from first array. So this was this was the way how to print how to get elements of array and print them in the right way. So I wanted to show you the problem of getting these elements of array by indexes. When we need to process all the elements in array, uh, this is a little bit painful here. So we need to take each element of array and work with it. So that's not actually cool. So somehow we need to do it in another way. And 41 with 42, yes, okay. So that's not a problem. We will get same result. So that's not principle here. So my question to you is, well, you see this problem. We have an array and we have to process every element of array. But working like this doesn't seem very convenient. Do you have any idea uh, how to print all elements of array without uh, this copy pasting of code? Any ideas? So let's look on this. 0, 1, 2, 3. I have seen this recently. Yes, continue your thought. So yes, that's well, okay, that's more compact way how to achieve this result. Well, okay, so I can put it in one line. That's not a big deal. So currently, question is how to work with each element array, for example, print this, but without copy pasting this code. Yes, finally, we've got the right idea. Well, now let's create uh, No, this use elements is just for declaration, not for usage. Okay, now let's create new class here inside arrays. Let's call it array operations with main functions inside. And let's copy paste some array from previous example. So just some array. Okay, so let's try to imagine this array inside memory. So these are some kind of cells inside memory with values. And these cells are indexed, so they have some number, I mean ordinal number. So this element is with 0 index, this second element with, with index 1 and so on. So actually we can write R0, R1, R2 and so on. But that's kind of, but we sometimes we cannot know how big this array is. So, or it can have thousands or even just millions of values. So we cannot write it with hands. So yes, loop here is right decision to work with array. So remember, we have generated numbers like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we cannot have element in array with which is not indexed. So that's impossible. And how do you think? Which type of loops is most appreciated to use with arrays? So we had while, do while, and for. Which one is best suited for usage with arrays? So the answer is for, because for loop declares these numbers already. It declares uh, this number iterator that can be used as index. So while works just with logical condition, which is not necessary be somehow connected to numbers. So in while or do while we can work with just Boolean variables. But for loop is always about this numbers, so iterator number, and that's why arrays and for loop is always goes together, so they have uh, eternal love with each other. So now let's try to think how to connect for loop and array. So for now, I just want to print all the elements of array in a line. Well, okay, let's start with for loop declaration. Okay, we need some iterator. Let it be int e is equal to 0. Anyway, we start indexing of array with 0. So this int e is equal to 0. That looks like a good start here. How much iterations we have to we need to perform? So that's what was a that was a question. Yes, length of array. Very good. So array is always of fixed length. It cannot be changed. And we can get this value. So here I write name of array dot and this keyword. Well, that's not really a keyword, but a property called length. And here I write e++. So because after I perform operation with first element, I'll go to second and so on and so on. So this property hold value of array length. Currently it's 6, just for this array. Well, now we need to somehow get current value, current processing value of array. So here previously we have used access by index. Our index is here, is stored here inside E. So our E will be uh, current element inside array. So here inside square brackets, I can put any integer expression. So I can write 0, I can write 3 plus 7, I can write some variable only of type integer. So here inside the square brackets, I can use any integer. And let's create a variable element. So here inside the variable element, we will store currently processing element of array. Okay, let's print this. Let's print element and space after. So here's the syntax. Please rewrite this example and run it. Well, great. So let's try to run. And yes, here we see on a screen all elements of array. So let's let's try to look deeper inside this example, just step by step with the help of debugger. So how arrays look inside debugger? So they looks a little bit another way, not like usual variables, but they look this way and have this special triangle like we have here, just to expand value. So I click here and expand values. So I see that on element with index 0, here's stored 4. Element with index 1 has value 8, and so on and so on. So here I can expand and see all the values inside this array. And I have even have this special r.length. So Java compiler, sorry, Java debugger prints this here specially for me just to see how big this array is. So I can see it even here. Here's 6 and here's 6. Well, now let's look what's inside, what happens inside this loop. So we have declared e, just like we have done this before, this iterator with value of 0. And look, what we're doing here, we are getting an element from array by index. So this index, so as I shown before, we can use here absolute numbers well, literal numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can use here some arithmetic expressions of type integer like 3 plus 7. And here we can use variable. And it's very, very useful with for loops. So e is variable of type integer, so we can use it as an index to get elements from array. So currently on the first loop iteration, this e is equal to 0, and we are getting elements from array by index, which is stored here inside e. So 0th element, and save it inside new variable element. So this element is the first element of array. One important note. So we can define variables inside a loop. So just like I did this here. So I have created int element, and this variable will live only inside this loop. So I could not use it outside of a loop after it is finished. So this element will lives only inside a single looping iteration. So here I just store a variable of array's 0th element. Well, you see value here's 4, and just printing this with space. I say on the console printed 4. Now we're going to second loop iteration. Now e is equal to 1. So this is next index from array, and we are getting next element from array. Well, currently we got 8, so this is not really second, but that's first element in array. Printing and go further like this. So now index is 2, so we're getting second element from array, this one. and so on and so on until this e is equal to 5. So 5 will be the last index of array, and and this is the last positive condition for this loop. So 5 is less than, so array length is 6, and e here 5 is the last possible option to for running the loop. So on the next after next e++, e will become 6, r length is also still 6, and 6 is not less than 6, and we are going out of loop. So this loop is finished. We have printed all the variables, all the elements from this, and are happy with this. So here our application is finished. So everything is clear with this example. How we worked with every element of array. So this is actually a base. So for working with array elements, so this for declaration. So mostly always we start this e from 0 because array elements are listed from 0. And this iterator is less. Please do not use here less or equals. That most probably will cause an exception. So usually when we need to go till the last element of array, we use this e is less than array length. And e++ because, well, we need to mostly work with array elements sequentially, one after another. And here, so we can work here without this additional variable. So we can work directly with this value. So I'll put this inside comments. So just like I don't know, a good example, but we can work with this directly without storing in additional variable. So I'll get exactly the same result. So this is anyway representing this integer element of array. So we can store this inside a separate variable, or we can work with this directly. So better let's get these two options here listed. So preferably use a separate variable and work with it, but that's not a mandatory. So most probably in production code you will see both examples. So is this also done? Second option with working directly. Well, good. So now I want to give you a little practical assignment on and will give 15 minutes. So we will return to Lection after. So on basic loop operations, so we have counted sum of integers from 1 till 10. So now I want to count sum of elements of array. So something like we have done here before, but instead of just simple iterator, I want you to sum elements to process each element of array. So put its value inside some additional variable called sum. So is assignment clear? Uh, so we have array this with integer variables. So I want you to sum up these values inside some variables. So I wanted you to add 4 to 8, so it will be 12 minus 3, 9, add 5, and so on and so on. Just like we have done before in another example with while loop. So we have counted sum of sequential numbers from 1 till 10. But now I want you to sum all the variables inside this array. So 4 plus 8 plus minus 3 plus 5 plus 2 plus 12. So, and I give you time till 21:25. So we will need to talk a little bit after till end of lection. So 12 minutes. I will not stop translation. I'll just uh, stop. So I'll just close the voice for now, but translation will continue. Uh, so let's get back. Did you had success with this exercise? So can you please explain where was the problem? So now I'll show, of course, the solution, but I still need to understand where was the problem. Or it's possible you can write me in a private message. So just we now we had very less time, so I'll show you solution. So here we this in this example with while we have summed. So we created a variable sum where we have holded the sum of elements, and here we have added a new variable. So this variable e was variable to add into sum, and it also worked like an loop iterator. So now we do not need to sum this iterator, but we need to check get next element from array, and we already know how to do it, and add it to a sum. Uh, so how to do it? So the start is absolutely the same. So I just can copy paste it. So again, we need to go through all elements of array. So this part you can, I don't know, write it on a sticker and use it for all exercises about arrays. So what we're doing here, iterating through each element of array and getting its element inside variable. So that's not necessary, uh, but it's more, let's say, but it looks better. So exactly like we did it here before, we declared variable sum with initial value of 0. And also we have done this for exercise when we calculated p. So this is exactly a box where we will put together all elements. And now here we just think that we want to sum this next element value from array to our sum. And exists, and that's all. So please rewrite this example, and let's look and after that let's look in debug how that works step by step. So now, okay, let's wait 30 seconds, half a minute, and then let's go step by step with a debugger on this. So now we have declared integer sum with initial value of 0. So this will be, let's say, box where we will sum all the elements. Next, here's our standard declaration for going to iterate through all array elements. So start index is 0. Last index that we will work is array length. So this most essential part, int element, is RE. So here it is array name, and here in square brackets it is index for which element we want to take. Let's now get back to array basics class. So here we have used this array index to get element out of array. So, but once more time here, we can use not only this literal numbers like 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Here we can use another variables. So, and this another variable, for example, may be this e. So, e is 0 on the first iteration, and by this we are getting our zeroth element from array. Here it is. It has value of 4. And so we can work with RE directly, like we have in previous example, but we can also store it in another variable, just for better visibility. So here it is now currently. Element is equal to 4. So this variable will hold currently value of first element in of array. So it is just like a reference that points to first element in array. And what we're doing next, we're putting value of this element inside sum. So here sum is equal to sum plus element. Now our sum contains value of first element, but we're going further and increasing our index. So index currently is 1, and we're getting next element from array. So it has value 8. What we're doing here, we're plusing, adding this element to sum. Great. This sum is already 12 because it has a value of this first element and second element. Now we are getting next element. So e is currently 2, and we're getting value from array by this iterator. So next element is -3. So here it is. And we are storing this inside value called element. So we can call this variable how do we want. And on each iteration, this variable will hold another. On each iteration, this will hold next value from array. So after getting all these elements to a sum, so one more important moment, I'm not printing the sum here inside loop. So everything that happens inside loop, it will happen as much times as array length. So I need to print the sum only once time. So I'm doing this only after this loop. So please, this is a very important moment, and so I have seen this a lot of times when variables that needs to be used only outside of a loop. So when they got the final value, was used for printing inside loop. So we can use this sum only after loop because we need to go only through all elements of array, and only then we got the final value. And only after that, so after this curly brace, we can use this variable, for example, to print. Well, now it is more clear with this example. Good. So now beer and cheese are waiting for you. And on a Wednesday we do not have Lection, so it's holiday. We will not have lection on that day, so we will meet on Friday evening now. And so I really do not want to give you homework to uh, let's say a big homework, not to well, junk coding is great, but uh, nobody expects you will not understand this code. But I want to give you, let's say, a little bit creative homework. That's absolutely if you want to do. So here, do you remember this data validator class when we used case or big ifs to here to understand the month's names? So, well, you see how big this switch is, or if you have used if else's, again, they're pretty big. So, uh, so your creative task is you can optimize this code by putting all the months names inside in a string array and properly getting them after. So user asks, so user enters month's ordinal number, and we can use this like an index with some manipulations. So we can have array with January, February, and so on, and so after that we can put these months names from this case or if after. So we can just drop off them, and but we can just get value from that array, and therefore we'll uh, create our code less for 12 lines. So will be a little optimization and making code uh, better. So, but that's absolutely up to you to perform this homework. That's absolutely not mandatory. But for now, I wish you great holidays. Uh, and have a good evening, and so bye bye.